The shot that shook the lobby. Smash that subscribe button like it owes you money. Hit like if you feel the chill already crawling up your spine. And drop a comment if you're ready to step into a story corporate America never wanted told. The sirens reached the glass tower before the truth did. At 7:42 p.m., the UnitedHealthcare executive headquarters in downtown Chicago still glowed like a fortress. Clean lines, mirrored walls, a symbol of control and certainty. Inside the marble lobby, the evening security shift was settling in when a single sound cracked the calm. Not a scream, not an alarm, just a sharp, final noise that echoed off steel and stone. By the time the first guard rounded the corner, the CEO lay motionless near the private elevator bank, suit darkened, phone still lit in his hand. No sign of a struggle, no panicked witnesses. Just a man who ran one of the most powerful healthcare corporations in America collapsed in a place designed to be untouchable. Within minutes, the building locked down. Elevators froze. Doors sealed. Executives were herded into conference rooms as flashing red and blue lights painted the lobby windows. The news broke before the blood could be cleaned. A CEO assassinated inside his own headquarters. Detective Mara Klein arrived to chaos wrapped in silence. She had worked homicides for 16 years, but nothing prepared her for the weight of this scene. The air felt heavy, like everyone in the building was holding the same breath. Corporate security hovered nervously. Lawyers appeared faster than paramedics. No one wanted to say the word everyone was thinking: assassination. The first detail bothered her immediately. No forced entry. No broken cameras. No signs of a rush. Whoever did this hadn't panicked. They had planned. The weapon was gone. No shell casing. No fingerprints. The killer had moved through a building monitored by some of the most advanced private security systems in the country and left like a ghost. As for witnesses, that was the second problem. Security footage showed a man entering the lobby 15 minutes before the shot. Average height, dark coat, baseball cap pulled low. He moved with purpose, not haste. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look angry. He looked prepared. His name, according to the temporary access badge he used, was Luigi Mangione. The badge wasn't fake. It was issued by a third-party consulting firm contracted by UnitedHealthcare just weeks earlier. Mangione had been cleared. Background check passed. No criminal record. No red flags. Too clean. Klein pulled Mangione's file and felt the first real chill of the night. He wasn't a disgruntled employee or a radical protester. He was an analyst, brilliant, quiet, specialized in corporate risk assessment. His job was to identify vulnerabilities inside massive organizations, which meant he knew exactly where the cracks were. Investigators traced Mangione's movements through the building. He never entered the CEO's office, never triggered an alarm. He disappeared into a service corridor seconds after the fatal moment. By the time security realized something was wrong, he was already off camera. Outside, rain began to fall, washing the streets clean as police fanned out across the city. But Mangione was gone. That's when the email surfaced. An internal audit team flagged a folder hidden deep inside the CEO's encrypted drive. It wasn't financial data or personal correspondence. It was a series of internal reports marked Project Threshold. The documents detailed denied coverage cases, thousands of them, names, dates, outcomes, patients who never made it to treatment, numbers that reduced lives to liabilities. At the bottom of the folder was a single note and signed, exposure risk increasing, internal resistance expected. Klein stared at the screen, realizing this wasn't just about one man. This was about a system, and someone who understood it better than anyone else. As the night stretched on, another discovery landed like a punch to the chest. Mangione's apartment wasn't empty, it was erased. No clothes, no electronics, no personal photos. Even the trash had been taken out. The only thing left behind was a folded piece of paper taped inside a kitchen cabinet. For words, printed neatly in black ink. They taught me how. Klein felt the case shifting beneath her feet. This wasn't a crime of rage. It wasn't personal vengeance. It was a message. And as the city slept under rain and sirens, one truth became impossible to ignore. Luigi Mangione didn't just disappear after the assassination. He wanted them to follow. But when investigators finally accessed a restricted server tied to Project Threshold, one that even the CEO himself rarely opened, what they found buried inside would turn this from a murder investigation into something far more dangerous. Because the next name on the list was still alive, the pattern beneath the blood. By dawn, the city believed the danger had passed. The CEO was dead, the building sealed, the suspect vanished into rumor and shadow. But inside the major crimes bullpen, Detective Mara Klein knew better. Murders like this didn't end cleanly. They spread. The restricted server tied to Project Threshold opened slowly, as if resisting exposure. What emerged wasn't a list. It was a system. An internal algorithm designed to predict which patients would cost the company more than they were worth. Treatments flagged. Appeals delayed. Coverage denied with bureaucratic precision. The deaths weren't recorded as deaths. They were coded as attrition. And next to dozens of entries, someone had added timestamps. Exact minutes. Exact seconds. Klein followed the trail to the next name highlighted in red. A senior board member. Still alive. Still protected. Still scheduled to speak at a healthcare investment summit in New York. 24 hours from now, the case became a race against time. Federal agencies descended, their presence polite but suffocating. UnitedHealthcare's legal team tightened like a vice, limiting access, challenging warrants, requesting coordination. Klein felt the walls closing in. This investigation wasn't just about catching a killer anymore. It was about who controlled the truth. Meanwhile, Luigi Mangione's past began to unravel. He wasn't born angry. He wasn't radicalized overnight. His academic record painted him as disciplined, gifted, and disturbingly focused. Former professors described him as polite, intense, and obsessed with systems. How they failed, how they had consequences behind data. Then there was the personal history the background checks missed. Mangione's younger sister had died 7 years earlier. A rare autoimmune condition. Treatment approved, then revoked. Appeals delayed. The official cause of death was complications. The internal file labeled it cost containment success. Klein felt the pieces locking together. Mangione hadn't snapped. He had studied. He had waited. Surveillance teams were dispatched to New York under orders to quietly protect the next target. No public warnings. No evacuations. No panic. The summit went on as scheduled. Champagne flowing beneath crystal chandeliers, while armed agents blended into tailored suits. Across the river, in a rented room overlooking the skyline, a laptop flickered on. Mangione was watching. Investigators found proof he had been inside the summit venue days earlier, posing as a logistics consultant. His access wasn't forced. It was granted. Just like Chicago. Just like before. At 2:11 p.m., the power briefly flickered in the conference hall. Nothing alarming. Just long enough for cameras to reset. Long enough for one man to step out of view. Klein's phone buzzed. A body had been found in a service stairwell. But it wasn't the board member. It was one of the federal agents assigned to protective detail. No weapon. No signs of a fight. Just a look of shock frozen on his face. And something else clutched in his hand. A badge. Not his. Luigi Mangione's. The summit was evacuated in minutes. Panic rippled through investors and executives who suddenly realized they were not spectators. They were potential targets. Yet Mangione was already gone again, slipping through the cracks he knew better than anyone. That night, a video appeared online. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't a threat. It was calm, carefully framed. Mangione sat at a plain desk, face uncovered, eyes steady. He spoke without anger, without shouting. "I didn't break anything," he said. "I followed the rules exactly as they were written." The video vanished within an hour, scrubbed from platforms under emergency takedown requests. But it was too late. Copies spread. The message landed. Public opinion fractured instantly. Some called him a terrorist. Others called him a whistleblower with a gun. Protests ignited outside corporate offices across the country. Executives canceled appearances. Board members went dark. Inside the task force, pressure mounted. Klein was ordered to focus solely on apprehension. No more digging into corporate practices. No more leaked documents. Just catch the suspect. Then the call came that changed everything. A fire had broken out at a storage facility on the outskirts of Chicago, one registered to a shell company tied to UnitedHealthcare's internal compliance division. Inside, firefighters discovered stacks of burned servers, melted hard drives, and one room sealed behind reinforced steel. When they forced it open, they found a chair bolted to the floor, restraint still warm, and a single word carved into the concrete wall: complicit. Klein understood the message immediately. Mangione wasn't running anymore. He was closing the circle. And somewhere, watching the smoke rise into the night sky, Luigi Mangione was already preparing for his final move, one that would force the country to decide whether he was a murderer or the mirror they'd been avoiding all along. The reckoning no one escapes. The manhunt reached its breaking point not with a gunshot, but with confession no one was prepared to hear. At 3:17 a.m., every major news network received the same encrypted file. No threats, no demands, just a location pin and a timestamp set for sunrise. Federal authorities argued for hours over whether it was a trap. Detective Mara Klein didn't hesitate. She recognized the pattern. Luigi Mangione never improvised. The location led them back to Chicago, to a decommissioned UnitedHealthcare data center scheduled for demolition, a concrete monolith abandoned after a cost restructuring 5 years earlier. Power dead, cameras offline, forgotten by design. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old circuitry. Klein moved slowly, weapon lowered, heart pounding. This wasn't a standoff. This was a stage. They found him in the server hall. Mangione sat calmly at the center of the room, hands resting on his knees, surrounded by towering black racks stripped of hardware. No weapon in sight. No attempt to flee. Just a man who looked like he had finally reached the end of a long calculation. "I knew you'd come," he said softly. Klein didn't respond. She waited. She always did. Mangione gestured toward a portable monitor glowing beside him. On it was a live data feed, mirrored servers that had been secretly uploading for months. Patient records, internal emails, board meeting transcripts. Proof that Project Threshold was an anomaly. It was policy. "They'll shut it down the second you arrest me," Mangione continued. "But they can't erase what's already been copied." He wasn't bargaining. He was explaining. For years, executives had traded human lives against profit margins, shielded by complexity and legal language. Mangione hadn't exposed them with a bullet. He had exposed them with their own systems. The CEO's assassination had been the spark. The rest was a fire. Klein finally spoke. "You killed him." Mangione nodded once. No pride. No regret. He signed the final override. Tactical teams closed in, weapons raised. Mangione didn't resist as they cuffed him. He didn't shout. He didn't struggle. As they led him away, sirens echoing through the empty corridors, Klein noticed something unsettling. Relief. The arrest sent shockwaves across the world. Within hours, the leaked data went public. Congressional hearings were announced. Stock prices collapsed. Executives resigned under pressure. Class action lawsuits flooded the courts. And Mangione? He was charged swiftly. Murder, terrorism-related offenses, conspiracy. The trial was fast, airtight, and impossible to ignore. Prosecutors painted him as a cold, calculating assassin. Defense attorneys framed him as a man pushed past the breaking point by institutional cruelty. The jury deliberated for 6 days. Guilty. Mangione was sentenced to life without parole. No speeches. No outbursts. Just a quiet nod as the verdict was read, as if he'd expected nothing else. The public moved on, as it always does. New scandals replaced old ones. Headlines faded. The system adjusted, rebranded, promised reform. But Detective Klein couldn't shake one final detail. 3 months after the sentencing, a junior compliance officer was found dead in a parking garage in Phoenix. Ruled a suicide. No note, no history of depression, except for one thing. Etched faintly into the concrete pillar behind the body was a single symbol. Not a name, not a threat, just a timestamp. The same format used in Project Threshold. Klein reopened the file, heart sinking as she scanned recent reports. Denials were down but not gone. Algorithms had been updated. Language softened. Outcomes unchanged. Mangione was behind bars. The system was still breathing. And somewhere inside corporate America, someone had learned the same lesson he did, that the rules work, if you know how to use them. If this story shook you, disturbed you, or made you question what happens behind closed doors, make sure you subscribe. Because the next case goes even deeper, and it's closer than you think.